2023 is looking to be a crazy year for adventure news. It's the first month and we got plenty of stories to talk about. We got KTM in the news with the 490 Adventure. Honda have updated their CRF 300L for 2023. We've also got specifications for the MV Agusta 9.5 and 5.5. And lastly, it looks like we've got a brand new variant of the Norden 901. So let's just jump straight into the details. Is it going to be made, or are the rumors true? Has it been cancelled? And I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, the rumors are true. The KTM 490 Adventure and all the 490 subsidiaries have been cancelled. And I say this for two reasons. The first is Autocar India, which I wouldn't always put 100% of my faith on, had an interview with Stefan Pierre, who's the CEO of the Pierre Mobility Group. And that is the group that owns KTM, Husqvarna, and a whole host of other KTM subsidiaries. And he has stated that it's officially cancelled. The 490 is not going to be made. They've done the numbers and KTM are claiming that the 490 would put them in the red purely from production costs. They don't think they'll be able to sell enough to make up the cost of making this bike. This is made even worse because their partner in India, who they make the bikes with, Bajaj, is also doubly busy now that they've also got a contract with Triumph. It means that the bike, if they even wanted to produce it, would be significantly delayed. There's layers of problems here that have led to it being cancelled. But what took me over the line and convinced me that the 490 is dead for sure, we've got corroborating evidence from Motorrad, who reached out to KTM's chief sales officer, Hubert Trunkenpols. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he has also independently confirmed the 490 platform has been cancelled because it's not financially feasible. I think with those two separate data pieces from two major people within KTM, the CEO and the chief sales officer, both independently saying that the KTM is dead, I think that is enough for me to say for certain that the 490 platform is no longer going ahead. I'm sorry to bring you that sad news, as I know how popular this bike was. A lot of people were looking forward to either upgrading from the 390, and also there were equally a lot of people wanting to downgrade from their middleweight adventure bike, wanting something with enough performance to keep them happy, but lightweight enough to really do the tough stuff. And this had the potential to be that parallel twin unicorn adventure bike, and a lot of people were pinning their hopes on it. So I think KTM have really dropped the ball here. Let's just move on because I'm getting depressed. So the other news coming out of KTM with the news of the cancellation is that they're planning to replace this 490 platform with a parallel twin 690 platform, which gets even stranger because this 690 platform isn't an all new 690 ground up rebuild. They're sleeving down the 790 motor to a 690 to 700cc capacity. And they're saying that this is to help bridge the gap between the 390 and the 790. So now you're going to have the 690, the 790 and the 890 all based off the same motor, which is a bit of a head scratcher. The other big piece of news here is it's going to be produced in China by CF Moto. Now we know that KTM have had an agreement with CF Moto for quite some time. So my thought here is maybe they'll be able to save enough money by producing this bike in China that it will give it a significant undercut to the 790, and that will help separate it from the other middleweight adventure bikes in the KTM lineup. But the thing here is, at least for me personally, when I'm looking for a middleweight adventure bike, I'm all about that lightweight. But if it's based off the 790cc motor just sleeved down, where's the weight savings going to be? Because the motor is going to be just as heavy. The other thing that would make sense is if this 790 can actually be available in the learner system countries like here in Australia. I'd love to know your thoughts on a 690 parallel twin platform, so chuck them down below. Pure speculation on my part, so do not take this as gospel, but just a thought process that I've been going through. We know emission standards are getting really difficult to pass. We also know that the bikes finding it the hardest to pass are single cylinders. And with the advent of the news of this parallel twin 690 platform, I'm really worried that KTM are going to cancel the 690 Enduro, because if they've got a 690 parallel twin, maybe that is enough justification for them to axe the 690 Enduro, which is getting harder and harder for them to get past emissions. Quite expensive to produce because it is a fantastic, high performance, well engineered and really high quality dual sport. And basically the only premium dual sport on the market. If you want high performance and dual sport, the 690 is your only option at the moment. And if they've already suggested that they're cancelling the 490 for financial reasons, and that's the ethos they've got moving forward, is to save money and conserve revenue, why would they keep producing expensive motorcycles when they've got cheaper options? That's a concern for me. Hopefully it's just a harebrained thing that will not come to fruition. I just wanted to put it out there, see what you guys think. Am I crazy in thinking KTM might be thinking that down the line? Let me know down below.
Start it up.
Good news, everyone. The Honda CRF 300L gets bold new graphics for 2023, but now Honda offer the bike in Swift Grey, and another little update is you now get plastic handguards. And the second piece of news is it looks like the 300L and the 300 Rally could be getting a shorter version of both models with the S moniker. This isn't 100% confirmed, but the model number has popped up. And speculation is, of course, that it will be for shorter riders, following what Kawasaki has been doing, where they've been putting an S alongside their dual sports to signify that they're the shorter rider models. If Honda were to do that, I think that would be a fantastic option. The off-road market really doesn't spend much time thinking about bikes that would really suit shorter people. I think the fact that this would be out on the market would make it even more popular. The only problem is the old thing of, will you be able to get your hands on one? Because these things are so damn popular and Honda are having such trouble trying to get enough out to customers. You might be in for a bit of a wait, but if you're a short rider and you wanted a fantastic dual sport, maybe Honda will have you covered. We'll just have to wait until Honda confirm it for sure. But of course, there's the options that we can all guess at. There'll probably be a lower seat. Will they address the suspension and lower the suspension as well? Or will it be a lowering link? Time will tell. I will keep you updated as the story progresses. There's a brand new model of the Husqvarna Norden 901 called the Expedition. How do we know this Expedition exists? Well, there was an information leak from the EPA when Husqvarna submitted the bike with the agency, as well as a Husqvarna Summit video who's leaked, so we're actually able to get our eyeballs on the bike. So everyone's been looking at the bike at detail, and we have been able to figure out that there are a few differences to this Expedition model over the standard version of the 901. One of the things that pops out immediately is a bigger bash plate than the standard model. Also, you can see soft luggage there, so of course that might be either an accessory option or comes standard with the bike. Now, probably the most interesting thing that's been spotted in this video is upgraded front suspension. So they've gone from the 43mm suspension up to 48mm suspension. So that is encouraging that you will get improved suspension over the standard model. I think really that will probably be the biggest selling case for the bike. But one thing I really want to know is whether they've addressed the soft rear suspension on the 901. Now, it's not crazy soft, but I have heard a few reports from bigger guys that the rear suspension on the 901 isn't really up to the task of serious riding if you're a heavier bloke. It would make sense if they addressed the front forks that they would upgrade the rear as well. So hopefully Husqvarna have done that, because that would be really silly if they haven't. This is basically Husqvarna's version of the 890 Adventure R. So if you're wanting a more high performance version of the Norden 901 and the stock suspension wasn't quite enough for you, I think this will get the job done nicely.
Start it up.
The 9.5 has a 931cc triple engine derived out of the F3 800. It's stated to make 124 horsepower and 102 Newton meters of torque. We've got that all-important 21-inch wheel up front, and it's attached to 48mm Sash's front forks. Those front forks have 220mm of travel, and then at the back we've got an 18-inch rear wheel with a monoshock, and that has 210mm of travel. Now, there's two really interesting pieces of information here that I couldn't help but focus in on. One was the dry weight of this bike at 220 kilos. That's pretty heavy if we're considering this bike as a middleweight. If realistically we compare it to the big adventure bikes like a CRF 1100L, it makes more sense to be 220 kilos, and it's actually on the lighter side for a big adventure bike. It also has a 20-litre fuel tank. So you may as well throw roughly another 20 kilos on that if you fill the bike up. So that's well into big adventure bike territory, but it does have the specs to back it up. MV Agusta is stating with that 20-litre tank, it should get you about 350 to 360 kilometers of range, or 222 miles, and works out at about an average of 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers. Ground clearance is 230 millimeters, so not too shabby for an adventure bike. And it also has an adjustable seat, so the seat height can be anywhere from 850 millimeters up to 870 millimeters. It's going to have all the things you expect: TFT screen, Bluetooth connectivity, all the whiz bangs to navigate the thing to the bloody moon. So expect all that shiny stuff on this bike. The 5.5 is a twin-cylinder motorcycle, not a triple like its bigger brother, the 9.5. It also makes significantly less power, 47 horsepower, and 51 Newton meters of torque. The thing that's really surprised me, or not surprised me really given this bike's heritage, is the 220 kilos that the bike weighs. That's as heavy as the 9.5, but it makes a third of the power just about. That is a lot of weight for a small displacement adventure bike. This is 554 cc's and it weighs 220 kilos. The shocks are also by KYB, 43 millimeters up front, and there's 135 millimeters of travel, which really isn't a lot. The other thing that suggests that this bike is more of an adventure tourer, other than the very little travel in the suspension and the heavier weight, is the wheel setup. This has a 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear wheel. You do get dual 320mm Brembo brakes up front and a Brembo rear as well, which is a nice premium piece of componentry to have on an entry-level adventure bike. It's got the same capacity as a 9.5 as well, petrol-wise, with 20 litres. MV Agusta are claiming 520-ish kilometers on a tank. Now, as you would expect, the 5.5 isn't quite as feature-heavy. It's not going to have the kitchen sink thrown at it technology-wise, but MV Agusta have stated that you will still get a TFT screen and Bluetooth connectivity, which I think is a nice touch. Also, MV Agusta haven't stated whether the 5.5 will come with any riding modes on it available. All it states is that the bike will have ABS, and it doesn't state whether that ABS will be switchable or not. But the bigger story here is what MV Agusta doesn't really televise, and that this 5.5 is actually Chinese made and Chinese built. It's made by QJ Motors, and that frustrates me a little bit, that they've just gone to the cheap and easy route rather than manufacturing a really high performance, high quality, small displacement adventure bike, as we know MV Agusta can do. That's my gripe. It's just a missed opportunity again. You know, I'm always going to angle for that high quality, lightweight, do everything adventure motorcycle, but we just seem to be missing the mark. Every manufacturer just goes for the cheaper option, or like KTM have done recently, cancelling it completely. But it doesn't mean it's not going to be a great bike for certain buyers. So as we can see, 2023 is already getting very busy news-wise, and we're only in the first month of the year. If you like the video, hit that like button, consider subscribing because it'll really help me out and helps grow the channel. And as always, guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll see you in the next one.